Hey, hello, and welcome back. I am Debbie Peterson of Getting to Clarity, and this is another episode of the Getting to Clarity show. I am so glad that you are here today because I really want you to get the tips, tools, and techniques that you need to make the next clear move in your business, in your career, in your leadership. And today we are talking about overwhelm, and especially the leadership trap of overwhelm and how you can escape it. So stay tuned. So let me be just clear with you for a second. Clarity is my word, so I love to be clear. Overwhelm is practically a job requirement these days, isn't it? I mean, I remember vividly in my corporate career that I was drowning in overwhelm. I worked for a company that was being acquired, and since I supported the executive team, I knew the secret. And I knew it long before the rest of the office did. And let me tell you, that was a heavy secret to keep, right? That kind of secret, keeping that, it affected others, and I still had to show up. I had to show up to meetings. I had to be there in the hallway when people had questions about other things that they didn't even know what was coming. And I had to pretend that everything was okay. Now, even though business wasn't as usual, I was under a lot of pressure, as you probably can imagine. And this wasn't just about tasks. It was on top of everything in my career, but it was also about people's lives. It was about their jobs. It was about their futures. And what I didn't realize until years later was my overwhelm wasn't about too much to do. It was about not knowing what was ahead. That clarity. And that's what lack of clarity does. It spins you around and around. It has you like a hamster on a wheel. You're busy, but you're not going anywhere. So here's the deal. Overwhelm isn't about volume. It's about focus and clarity. So clarity is what lets you zero in on what actually matters and take action where it counts. That's a choice that you can make, and it's a choice that every leader can make. Now, why should you care, right? Because when leaders operate in overwhelm mode, they burn themselves out. And then they teach their teams to do the same, to operate in that space of overwhelm. So overwhelm also doesn't just stay at work either. It follows you home. And then suddenly you are snapping at your spouse, you are yelling at your kids, and you are giving evil looks to the dog, right? Poor puppy. And there are risks that go with this. You can make really bad decisions. You can be stalled in your momentum, burnout. You know, in my corporate career, I watched two executives make some very bad decisions and absolutely just implode this way. They didn't have clarity, and their choices cost them their jobs, but it also cost others jobs. Families were impacted, and then ultimately the company itself. So overwhelm clouds your judgment. Clarity clears it. So let's define these, okay? So clarity is the ability to cut through the noise, to create space, and to focus on what matters. It lets you decide. It lets you decide that, okay, I'm going to delegate this, or I'm going to delete this, or if you want to go for another D word, defer this. But it lets you do it with intention. You are making a choice. Overwhelm, on the other hand, is reaction and noise. It is doing something without discerning what it's about. It's about chasing without knowing why. It is mistaking busyness for progress, and it's not. So how do you escape the trap? I use something called the Clarity Compass. It's like a GPS that gets you off of the back roads and onto the highway where you can really move. Okay, so it points you towards action, and here's how it works. Imagine a compass in your hand. The Y is in the north position. The Y is the piece that keeps you grounded in why whatever you're doing matters. What's the meaning behind it? In the east position, what sharpens your focus on the real goal? When you consider the things that you can do, what might be next, tie it back to your why, and it'll help give you clarity on what is the real priority. In the south position is who. This reminds you that you're not in this alone. Who are the people that can help you? How, in the west position, gets you moving with strategy, because you take the overall goal and you chunk it down layer by layer until you're in action. And then I put a now in the center, and that helps create momentum. It is your next clear move. What can you do within 48 hours now? So that explanation sets up the idea that you don't need to know every step, right? You don't need to have everything mapped out. You just need to have the next one mapped out. And once you know your direction, it's not the whole journey. It is just your next clear move. That's it. One step, because overwhelm convinces you that you need all the steps. You don't. You just need the next one. So here's how you can start right now. Pause and ask yourself, what's important right now? That's it. One shift creates space to think, to act, and to lead differently. So leaders who pause and prioritize, they protect themselves from burnout, from overwhelm. They give their teams the gift of stability. And speaking of teams, overwhelm shows up in behavior. So when you consider a happy-go-lucky team member, normally, who all of a sudden goes very quiet, how about the calm one who starts snapping at people? Pay attention, because a change in behavior is going to give you some information about where they are in their head. And then you can guide them back with clarity. Run a quick clarity compass check. And when you normalize practices like this, like brain dumps or stop doing lists in your meetings, you create a culture where clarity, not chaos, drives your action. So if you want a real quick exercise, try this two-step reset the next time that you are overwhelmed. Number one, ask yourself, what do I want instead? And no, it's not, I don't want to be overwhelmed. Be specific. What does it look like when you're not overwhelmed? And then that is what you're after. Then you can ask yourself, okay, if that's what I want, what's the very next step? Define just one action that moves you towards that sort of clarity. Overwhelm doesn't have to cost you your leadership. When you pause long enough to be clear, you stop reacting, you start responding with intention. And that shift keeps you steady. It protects your team, and it makes you the kind of leader that people actually want to follow. So here's your next clear move. Notice where overwhelm is creeping in. Name what clarity would look like instead, and then take one small step today that moves you in that direction. I am so glad you are here. Feel free to like, subscribe, follow along, share. I appreciate you. Be good to yourself,